Good morning, Tommy. How are you?
Jay Hood, I'm looking forward to the 6 a.m. starting time. That's my prime dog walking time, so I'm looking forward to it.
So while you're cleaning up the poop, you'll be listening to us.
Say that again?
While you're cleaning up the poop, you'll be listeling to us on the dog walk.
Yeah, well, that's part of owning a dog.
It's a part of the gig.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it is.
So tell us, through everything that we've seen so far, Tom, on either side of the football, what impressed you most about the Bears?
You know, when you look at the first team last week, I like the play calling of Ben Johnson. He put a little paranoia with them early bootlegs, and they ran them successfully. And then the defense starts thinking about how to make sure that they're aware of the exterior as much as the interior. And then they came right down with the seam route to Cole Kmet, and then, equally kind of put people on notice where this passing game could be going. And, we haven't thrown a ball to Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Zacchaeus yet. So I like that. I like the whole evolution of this offense. I like the fact that we've seen signs that Caleb is getting it. And I think there's a long way to go before the Minnesota game and beyond. However, we got a snippet of what this team can do. But just as much, I'm glad they're playing a little bit in Kansas City, because we need to see these guys organize at the line of scrimmage in a hostile environment, making sure that they're got that rhythm, that they're understanding of the rhythm of the cadence, so the offensive line can stay in rhythm and in tune with each other. So I like it, but now we got to figure out this running back position after they've had a couple of injuries and Roshan hasn't practiced. We don't know what's wrong with Monangai. Ian Wheeler's coming back from an injury. So, DeAndre Swift, the prime candidate for sure, but they got to figure out, who is that second and third running back that's going to come in here and provide a little bit running back by committee.
Absolutely, Tom. And also the other position I'm looking at is left tackle. Help me feel better as a Bears fan about the left tackle situation. I'm a little skeptical at the moment because they haven't selected someone to be the starter for week 1. Should we feel okay that it feels like Braxton Jones is the leader right now for that position?
I feel okay just in the terms that he has experience. He's not going to go in there with no NFL experience at all and, kind of be let's take a look and see how he does over the first couple weeks. Braxton Jones is a super intelligent guy. He's got great length. The thing about him is he's still like in that strength recovery mode from having that ankle injury at the end of last year. He's not going to go out there and make mental mistakes, but he's got to go out there and make sure that he's up to the physical challenge of the position. And I do think Dan Rochar has really helped him a lot, take care of some of the things that may have plagued him over the last couple of years. But then you got Joe Thuney to your inside, and you got a talented tight end to your outside. So understand how you can help yourself the most. And I do think, if he is the day one starter, I don't think the competition is over. I think Benedette has kind of opened a lot of our eyes that have played offensive line in their background, understanding he's not a failed experiment. The more plays he gets, the more he belongs. He's a super self-confident guy. He's got bendability, athleticism, and equally as good length as Braxton Jones does. So I like the fact when you go into the season or you go into the position and you have continuous competition, because it makes each guy need to be their best in order to maintain that role.
Tom, how many different positions did you play on the offensive line in your career, college and pro?
I played every one of them. I started at left tackle my junior year at Notre Dame. I played nose guard my freshman year at Notre Dame. I played left guard my sophomore year. And then my senior year, I played 4 games at right guard, 4 games at center, and 4 games at left guard.
The reason why I asked the question is because I just need to understand the versatility of the offensive lineman. Like I'm hearing Ozzie Trapillo is a right tackle, and that he'll never be a good enough left tackle. And I'm just saying that I think with work and anything else, I think your value is that you could be versatile on the offensive line. When you look at Trapillo or like Amagaje, for instance, is there any way for these guys to be able to be good? Do you see it in them to be good at either position, to be able to be versatile on the offensive line?
I do. Jay Hood, I think, Ozzie Trapillo, if you fed him a lot of reps at right tackle, he could go in there and be as competitive as anybody else on the team. He's got a really good dedication to the game in all the areas outside of just being in a stance, and that's being mentally and physically prepared, visiting the weight room, making sure you're dedicated to understanding your assignments so you can play as confidently as possible. I don't think he's a failed experiment at left tackle. I just think it's a matter of feeding him another 2,000 reps in the course of a season and practice and demonstration squad to create that confidence within himself. He can go out and play it. And the better he knows the offense, I think the better he can help himself in terms of, never making yourself vulnerable because you overset on an outside tackle. You created too big of a split from your guard to create that seam for that defensive end. So I think Ozzie is still a really interesting candidate. And the thing about Karan Amagaji, which really I've been paying attention to the last couple of weeks, Jay Hood, is the fact that as an offensive tackle, he's got the balance, he's got the setup, he's got the intelligence, but he's also got a really nice athletic approach to second level blocks where he understands the angle of approach to a linebacker who's going to flow to the motion of the play. He can get his body in front of the linebacker and then athletically get in position to sustain a block. And sometimes that's a really difficult thing for offensive linemen to do. So what I'm thinking, okay, is Karan Amagaji have the skills to maybe give him some reps at guard during the course of the season to see if maybe he can develop into that long, big offensive guard that could play right and left side. And then you give him a little bit of protection because you always have somebody beside him, whether it's a center or an offensive tackle. So I think each of these guys, you have to further the investigation of how their career is going to work out best in the NFL.
True Fan Travel and ESPN Chicago are teaming up for the ultimate fan getaway to Sin City to see the Bears take on the Raiders in Las Vegas.
You get round-trip airfare, 3-night stay at Mandalay Bay, special live broadcasts and meet and greets with the full ESPN Chicago team, all-inclusive tailgate, tickets to Bears, Raiders, and more to come.
Spots are limited, so don't wait. Reserve your spot today at truefantravel.com. Back to you on the video.
Tom, there's a name that I haven't really heard much of during camp, and it's Jonah Jackson. Can you give us your scout on what you've seen from Jonah Jackson now joining the team for his first year and first camp with the Bears?
Jonah's a skilled player. He has been around the league long enough, been around multiple offenses. Jonah's just got to be able to have a regular season where he stays healthy. And he's going to be a legitimate offensive right guard that's going to go and better the play of Darnell Wright. He's going to help Dahlman at center. Jonah has got the understanding of what it takes to compete at the NFL. He's got that athleticism that I just talked about with Karan Amagaji to get up and play against linebackers in the second level. And he understands how to help if you're an uncovered offensive lineman and pass protection, depending upon what they're playing against you. And he knows how to help the center and still keep an eye on the right tackle to make sure he doesn't create a void in protection. Again, for Jonah, it's all about staying healthy. If he stays healthy, you got a legitimate interior three at the offensive line, but that's always going to be something that he's going to have to prove to us since he was injured last year.
Tom Thayer with us here on the Cap and J Hood Morning Show on ESPN 1000 and streaming on the ESPN Chicago app. Obviously concerns about the secondary, and by the time we start the season, Tom, the hope is that Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, and others can be healthy. What can you tell us about the secondary and what we might expect on Friday?
I think they're going to. I think the starters like Tariq Stevenson and stuff will get their due. Jaquan Brisker will play with the starters and stuff, but then you're going to see the other candidates like Jonathan Owens and Alex Cook and some of these other guys that have been put in there to see how they fit on the depth chart. Trey Flowers is another guy that's, he's got really good length, and he's got to prove to Al Harris that he can go out there and play. So I just think that's still these guys know the behind the scenes stuff about Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. We've all been impressed with Jaquan Brisker throughout training camp. So if all the candidates that they we thought were going to be there at the start of the regular season are there at the start of the regular season, then I think it's going to be super beneficial to the way Dennis Allen wants to go about his business of calling plays. But we just got to make sure that in 16 days after the Kansas City game that Jalen's in good enough shape and he's ready to go out there and play as the number one corner on this team. And, with the hopes that Jaquan Brisker stays healthy the whole season, just like Kyler Gordon. Dennis Allen has said some real complimentary things about Kevin Byard, and he's always proven to be a durable leader in that defensive back room. So, hopefully the candidates for the Minnesota game can be in place that we thought would be in the offseason.
Yesterday, Tyson Bagent received a 2-year, $10 million contract extension. Not only is it a feather in the cap for Ryan Poles in the front office to find this player and to bring him along, but also it's pretty cool to see a player get rewarded for the hard work, right, Tom?
Oh, and to put not being afraid of putting the emotions on display, because, guys like Tyson that have grown up into some difficult circumstances in terms of his family and stuff, and now he's said publicly that he's got an opportunity to go out there and allow his family to live a better life because of what he's invested in himself, what his dad invested in Tyson, coming out of the college that has never had an NFL player. I couldn't be more happy for a guy, and just know what it means for a guy to be able to set a different standard for his family. And listen, we're talking about $10 million extension. When you talk about Micah and Hendrickson
right,
and these guys that are trying to get $40 million a year, we're talking about a 2-year, $10 million extension that it brings this guy to tears. That's why, I really admire the guy.
Tom, as always, we love to be able to go back into your history as a player. So let's ask about the Kansas City Chiefs, because that's going to be the next team that the Bears play. That'll be Friday. Give us a little story of the best Chief that you faced. Was it an Art Still? Was it a Jack Del Rio on the other side? A Christian Okoye? Who was the best Chief that you faced in your career?
It might have been Dan Salamua. A big, thick nose tackle. We played him in Kansas City, and I think they beat us. But it was a hard-fought, physical football game, and the other guys they had on defense, they didn't have the big, tough guy, NFC type of reputation like a Randy White for the Dallas Cowboys and stuff. They were kind of an AFC lighter style of defense until they got some of these bigger nose tackles that were pretty solid.
How do you rank Arrowhead as a venue when you have to go on the road to play football?
During the regular season, I mean, it's as loud as you can get for an outdoor stadium. These guys line up for miles, hours before the game. They're a super attentive crowd, and that's what I'm happy about Andy Reid announcing that the starters were going to play for a little bit, because I think that will put more bodies in the seats, and then I think it'll give a little bit more challenge of the organized cadence for the Bears to make sure they're ready for it when they go to Detroit week 2.
You know what, Tommy? You can say it now as a retired player. Are you saying that in your day, when you continued to travel more west, that the intensity wasn't as much as the NFC? The AFC was a lighter brand of football than the black and blue NFC?
Oh, yeah.
Well, just a second. Really tough. Well, explain. I'd like for you to unpack that, please.
What? So is the AFC a different brand of football than the NFC?
Yeah, like in your day, because you just said that the Chiefs weren't necessarily the rough and tumble defensive guys like you dealt with in the NFC, right? Right.
They're not, so the first time in 85 I go to play against the Dallas Cowboys, it's Randy White, it's Too Tall Jones, it's Harvey Martin, it's John Dutton. They got solid defensive backs and linebackers. And then you go down and even though the Miami Dolphins did beat us, they have a different approach to football, because I also played for my last year. Mm-hmm. And when you have Dan Marino as your quarterback, teams are playing 4- and 5-man fronts in the AFC. When you go to a stadium with Walter Payton, they're playing 8-man football, 8-man fronts. Mm-hmm. So it's just a different design. And you look at the running backs in the NFC throughout our course of time, from the Walter Paytons to the Barry Sanders to the Chuck Muncies to, all the other guys, in and out of the NFC. Tony Dorsett's. It's just a lot. It's just a different brand of football.
I love that.
I'm not saying, I'm not talking trash about the AFC, but, when I went down to Miami and I started watching defensive tape with Marino being the quarterback and Scott Mitchell and these guys, you turn on the tape and there's 4 or 5 guys at the line of scrimmage. You go and you watch tape in preparation with Walter Payton, and there's 8-man fronts all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's a different, it's a different brand of blocking when you're talking about the AFC with a great quarterback than the NFC with a great running back.
See what you learned there, Chris? When the Bears played in L.A., they put their feet up.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't as
was
tough.
A softer brand of football.
Brand. It's a different brand.
Hard-nosed like the Midwest.
You guys.
when he played the San Diego Chargers, what the offensive line, put their feet up on the
sun will
chair.
Do that to you.
Yeah, you know what? Because the Bears were coming. That's right. Tell them, Tom.
I love it. I love it.
Tommy, as always, we appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.